Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Late Early Show.
With Paul Ross.
On Talk Radio.
Stimulating speech radio for those who never sleep.
The Late Early Show.
With Paul Ross.
Transporting you to another plane.
On Talk Radio.
Which is coming up. Something scary for the wee small hours of the morning. Something involving the ruins of a haunted abbey, a psychic medium from a police officer, and a close encounter with a murderous abbot. Or was it? Details after this.
The laid-back, late-night radio presenter who will transport you through the night.
The Late Early Show.
With Paul Ross.
On Talk Radio.
Hallelujah.
William Blake, that great poet and mystic, once said, there is that which is known and that which is unknown, and in between are the doors. And some people believe they have a handle on that door handle. They can turn the door and go to, call it what you will, the other side. They're sensitive, they're mediums, they're clairvoyants. Cool, again, the title isn't really important. Psychic mediums, though, are people I've worked with in the past on things like Most Haunted Live, and while I've never actually been completely convinced, because I'm sceptical by nature, I'm absolutely fascinated by this area. So I'm delighted to welcome to Talk Radio a psychic medium and paranormal writer. Nicky Alan joins us. He's got an article in the latest issue of Haunted magazine, which I found absolutely fascinating, about Netley Abbey, which is in Southampton. Good morning, Nicky, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, my darling. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, can we start, please, with a little bit about Netley Abbey itself? Because you did your investigation there a good few years ago now, didn't you? What, 13, 14 years ago? Tell us a bit about the place, please, and what happened.
Do you know, it was the first ghost hunt I'd ever been on, which is really weird, to be honest with you, because I come from a family that literally do all of this kind of stuff, mediums, psychic healers. And so really, they're like busman's holidays. So I was quite intrigued because of the stories that were behind it. I didn't really know a lot about it because I don't like knowing a lot about places.
No.
So I was basically invited along to this place. They said that there was some negative energies, but that's all I knew. And it's really quite surprising because I just noticed you said that you're a skeptic. I am as well. I was a major investigations detective. I was a police officer for 18 years. You know, so everything.
So you want hard evidence. You want hard evidence, and you want the facts.
Absolutely right. So I obviously went there, and I'm not being rude to other people, but I call them the cobweb dress wearers. Okay. Where they're like, oh, there's a spirit over there. Oh, there's a spirit. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. And you know what? I can't stand those sort of people. You know, they just need to go and off license. There's loads of spirits there. They'll be happy there.
To be fair, it's nice that they, you know, they've got a hobby and they enjoy their life. But you're right. It's about evidence and things you can measure. But very quickly, I think when you went into the Abbey, you sensed not just something, but someone. Am I right?
Oh my God, this thing! I literally, it was really surreal because you go in there, beautiful summer's day. Beautiful ruins. Yeah. If anybody Googles it, they'll see it's a beautiful place. And literally, first of all, I thought it actually was a physical person standing there. First of all, someone who was alive. Yeah. But when I looked again, there was just, it must have been at least 6'6", something like that, standing with his arms folded, just looking at me.
And what did he look like, Nicky? Let's get some police evidence on this. What was he wearing, for example?
He had this it was like a V-shaped, but it was white underneath, so it was almost like a white shirt. Right. So it looked a bit like, oh my God, I can't remember how you describe them. The ones that go up at the corner, it's a bit like a priest collar, I suppose. Yeah,
like a dress shirt, almost like those old-fashioned wing collar shirts.
Yeah, like an old granddad shirt. Yeah. You know that kind of collar. Yeah. And then he had like a black cloak on over the top of that. Yeah. But the weird thing is that I was just drawn more to his face. So I could see the outline of his legs and everything, but it was more his face and the collar area and his shoulders and his arms. That's what I was looking at the most. And was it? Did you get a sinister vibe from him? What kind of feeling did you get from him? Yeah, totally. Do you know when you I know it sounds excuse the pun, when someone walks over your grave and you kind of shiver and all the hairs go up in the back of your neck and you feel a bit sick. That was literally happened. It literally surged through him. I thought, oh my God, that is just not good. And you're saying this was in like daylight hours before you'd embarked fully on the investigation? Daylight. Okay. That was in daylight, and because it was my first ghost hunt, and because I've been a medium and doing readings for years, but never been on a ghost hunt, and I didn't want to like rock up in front of everybody and go, oh, there's a man over there, you know, in case you thought I was a total wally. Right. So I kept quiet, and so I just walked past. To be honest with you, I was quite scared. I'm not going to lie, because it's the first time I've ever looked at something that's made me feel physically sick, and I didn't know how to gauge that. My granddad had told me years before, you know, you're alive, they're not. don't show fear. Stand your ground, you'll be fine. I'm like, right, okay, so the only person you've got to worry about is the living, basically. Okay, so I walked past, and then it just literally disappeared into the ether. It kind of just like melted backwards, almost as if you'd see on a movie, you know. And so I didn't say anything, but for the rest of that afternoon, you know, we had like a barbecue and there was food and stuff like that. And I just thought, oh my God, I don't want to go anywhere near that. I really want to go now. I'll be running straight at it.
But did the investigation then, Netley Abbey, start as dusk fell then? Did it start, or did you do it through the afternoon? Tell us about that, please, Nicky.
Yeah, as dusk fell, we broke into groups, and then we basically just took ourselves off in different areas. We all had, it was very basic stuff, to be honest with you. Nowadays, they've got all sort of fandangled stuff, haven't they, for ghost hunts?
Yeah.
But we basically had dictaphones and cameras, to be honest with you. And just as dusk was falling, I turned my dictaphone on, and I replayed it, and there was like marching footsteps going through gravel, but where I was standing, it was grass.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool. That was good evidence.
When you say pretty cool, I mean,
that could have happened.
You were frightened by that first apparition, or whatever it was. When you say pretty cool, were you frightened by the footstep noise or not? Or were you kind of in your...
no.
Okay.
No, I was excited about that. Plus, I've always known that I'm surrounded by people that look after me anyway.
Right.
And,
you mean in the spirit world?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I've got... Do you know what? I could do another show just on the proof I've got from my guides.
Right.
Seriously, because I wouldn't have it that they looked after me. I went and found where they came from and found their origins. But I'm obviously digressing now.
No. We'll do that another time, definitely. But what I'm curious about is you get the footsteps, but they're reading the article in Haunted Magazine. You and the person you're with kind of encounter like a plague almost of insects or locusts flying towards you.
Oh my God! Well, that was right. That was the finale, if you like, because after that I went through to a lodge and it got quite dark by then.
Yeah.
And there's like this little lodge house, and I walked in, and it was so shocking. I can't tell you. Even thinking about it now makes me go funny, because there were these two monks that were basically kneeling in prayer. And again,
let's be clear for people. You see them as almost as real things, but for people listening, you're talking about apparitions that people who aren't sensitive would not see.
That's right. Okay. Because the thing is, I sometimes, a lot of clairvoyants work where they actually see it in their mind, and it's a really strong vision that's in their mind that they know isn't their own creation. And there's also obviously apparitions that you'll see physically manifested in the ether. So there's two ways of seeing them. These were physically manifested in the ether. They were right in front of me.
Right.
Obviously, you know, other people may have seen them, or you just have to be a bit more psychic to see them, but they were right in front of me. They were in brown, like, sackcloth habits, you know, really crude type of habits they were wearing. And, or whatever they call them, it is habits, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And they were kneeling down, and then suddenly the heads fell forwards, and I thought they were like kneeling in prayer. They just literally came off, and I was like, "Oh my God!"
What you mean, like they've been beheaded or something?
Yes, honestly, I thought I needed to go to a doctor or something. I'm like, "What the hell?" And then as I turned around, there was this doorway to my left. It was very dark in there, and I saw literally the picture of a woman's face come towards me in a habit, and I could just see like from the chest up. But then when I looked down to her stomach, it looked like it was ripped open, and she was just wailing, and they went straight past me.
Okay, now some people listening might say it's dark. You're in a heightened state of awareness, okay, and you know you're in the ruined abbey, so you're gonna if you see shadows of it, you're gonna visualise them as monks. What would you say to those people? How do you know it's not imagination? It's an apparition, then, Nicky?
Do you know what? To be honest with you, I totally agree. If I was sitting listening to this, I think, yeah, whatever. She's made it up just so that she can sound like, you know, she's a real psychic medium. But it's not just seeing; it's the feeling.
Right.
When you've got them nearby, you'll feel freezing cold or boiling hot. It depends on what energy they're manifesting on. You'll feel basically like your whole body's full of goosebumps. You'll get breathless. You'll get heart palpitations. And you basically will feel the essence of that energy next to you. And
did the person with you, I'm presuming, wasn't sensitive, did they sense anything of what you were feeling or not really?
To be honest with you, I'm not going to lie either. If this happened last week, I'd never admit to this because that would make me look like a real scaredy pants. But back then, I just went, oh my God, no, and I just went straight out.
Right.
So I had no chance to talk. And then when they came out, I then said, oh my God, I've just seen this, it's really horrible. And then someone said, who'd obviously been there before, yeah, we've heard accounts of that before, people have witnessed that before. So I said, right, well, don't tell me, I don't want to know anything else.
No.
Just see what happens until the end of the evening, you
know? Afterwards, though, did you ever establish that there had been executions or murders or anything there?
Yeah, apparently, because this we're in the punchline, really. What happened next? I'll tell you what happened after.
Go on.
And then that will explain what happened. So then, after a break, had a coffee, and I just thought, look, what is the point of coming here if I'm going to chicken out? So I thought, no, I'm going to carry on going. So I just went for a walk with another woman, just up through the ruins. And I can only describe it as a black mist of locusts. It was like a black mist coming towards you, and it had just like moving parts in it, like flies or locusts or something. It's the only way I can describe it. And I honestly thought perhaps it was, a load of flies. Because, again, I am an open-minded sceptic.
And, of course, you might be thinking maybe there have been, I don't know, something disturbed, wasps or anything.
Exactly. It could be a hornet's nest, anything, couldn't it? So I'm thinking, but you can't hear the buzzing, you can't hear anything. And literally, this thing it was mostly about 7 foot as it came towards me, but that's when I saw his face, but it was in my mind, if that makes sense. That's when I knew it was him.
What, the man you'd seen, the apparition you'd seen first of all, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
The man that was standing at the door, I knew it was him because I could see it in my head this time, but all I could see physically in front of me was this black mist.
Right.
And it came rolling towards me, and when it hit, it's just unbelievable what happened, because it felt like, as it hit, there was obviously the freezing cold, but then it was like, do you know if you've fallen down and winded yourself?
Yeah.
It was like that. I couldn't get my breath in, and then it felt like my spine was being dragged out the bottom of my back.
My God. And what about the woman who was with you? Did she feel it as well then, Nicky?
She went straight down on the floor. She went straight down on the floor like a sack of spuds. She literally was on the floor, and I was looking down at her, and I couldn't move.
Right.
And I did not. You just literally frozen, absolutely frozen.
And what do you do then with your professional medium side? Do you invoke protection?
I'm really professional, don't I?
No, I'm just saying. Obviously, no. That's come out of the blue. I can understand that this person's registered, or this thing has registered itself with you. But do things that happen automatically, or do you simply have to think, this has to go through me, pass through me, and then I have to try and protect myself? What happens?
To be quite honest, it's different, because I've now been on hundreds of ghost hunts and house clearings and all sorts of things. So it's very different. It's very like meeting any person. Everybody's different. With this one, I had absolutely no clue. Do you know when people go through trauma or they go through shock, you don't know if it's 5 minutes or 5 seconds. All I remember is then seeing my granddad, because he'd passed by there, my granddad's in my head saying, I can't swear, obviously.
No.
So I will say, no, don't swear. No, but he basically stood up and goes, stand your ground. Don't you dare let him do this to you.
Right, so he's saying basically you're living, and this person is either some kind of residual energy, spirit, call it what people will, but actually you mustn't show fear to it.
Yeah, absolutely, because I was terrified. I'm not going to lie, I was really terrified. And I basically thought, actually, he's totally right. This shouldn't happen. And it's really hard, because it's hard to describe, but you suddenly get this power within you that you know that you've got something else with you, as in my granddad's strength or my guides, whoever it was. I don't know. I've got no clue who's with me. All I know is that I just gripped my palms, and my nails were biting into my palms.
Yeah.
And I just got really angry. I just lost the plot. And I just literally swore and screamed at this thing that was surrounding me. And I don't know if it's because nobody's shown anger and they've just either shown fear or got out of the way or whatever they've done. But literally, I let rip.
Right.
And then it backed off. And it was like walking. I'll tell you what it was like. Do you know when you come out of an aeroplane in a hot country and you feel that warm breeze hit you? You're like, I'm on holiday.
Yep.
It was like that, though. Because as soon as the freezing went, even though it was quite a cool night, it felt really warm and lovely.
It's like kind of, a benign feeling, because the weight has been lifted, the pressure's gone.
Absolutely right.
Now, did you manage to find out anything about who this apparition might have been?
Yeah. He's known as the Abbot of Netley Abbey.
Right.
Do you know what? I can't for the life of me. I should have actually looked before I spoke to you, darling. He presided over the Abbey. It was a bit of a nut apparently. And what he used to do is, as I was told by the people, because I came out of there and I said, that is it, I'm done. And I literally went out to the car park and stayed there. I just would not go back in again. And there was someone there who had a lot of history of the place, and I said, right, tell me now what it's all about. And the abbot used to impregnate women and then I know this is going to sound awful, rip the fetuses out.
Abort the babies, abort them.
Yeah, absolve them of sin. And he also used to obviously behead monks as well that were praying, again, to let them repent of their sins or so.
And you knew nothing about this before you went in, Nicky?
Oh, God, no. What is the point of going, I do it with everything. I literally say to people, right, if I'm going to go on investigation, I don't want to know a thing where I'm going. I don't even want to know where I'm going. Don't want to know the place, don't want to know anything about it. Okay. What's the point otherwise?
Let me backtrack a bit then. When you were working as a police officer, did this intuition, gift, empathy, call it what you will, did that ever feature in your investigations? Could you, for example, sense a wrong one?
All the time.
Yeah?
All the time, yeah. And it didn't used to get me in trouble. All I can say to you is that there were a number of anonymous calls that came in so that we could actually put them in, but it was me really, that we'd put in so that we could action things. I actually got the motive for a murder on a murder investigation. ITV wanted to do a programme about it, but the family was so upset about the fact that obviously they'd had a member murdered, but they didn't want to go ahead with it.
So basically, you get intuitions. You get intuitions and say it's an anonymous tip-off, which is also the truth because it's just an anonymous tip-off to you from the other side.
Or the victim of the murder, which is a bit weird, isn't
it?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, you're laughing about it now. That must have been terrifying, though, Nicky, wasn't it?
To me, it wasn't, because I've always had a passion to look after and protect humankind. I know it sounds a bit deep and a bit but I always wanted to be a police officer, and the fact that I was psychic as well obviously helped it so much, because we had missing persons. I'd find missing people, and also what happened was, because I started doing readings in the evenings, lots of people knew I was psychic, so people, even though there were certain lads in the police that used to take the mickey, people started to actually respect what I did. So I was even involved in, do you remember the baby that was stolen from the hospital in Basildon?
I do, yes, years ago that was, wasn't it?
Kylie, yeah, I was involved in that job. And I basically drew where she was, the view of the window, what time she'll be back. I described the person who's taken her.
Do you think that kind of thing is? Do you think that kind of thing is kind of subtly accepted by the police? We often hear about psychics being called in for some cases.
So unfortunately. Do you know what? I really think, these people that are so desperate to find answers, they really should start seriously thinking about us, because the number of times I've phoned up with the, do you remember the prostitutes that were being murdered in Ipswich?
Oh, yes, a dreadful case.
Yeah, the first one who was murdered that night, that actually came through in a circle that I was doing when I was teaching a circle. And I said to everybody to look out in the news, because this was going to obviously come out in the news. And so the thing is that I know from both sides, you see, from being on a major investigation and sitting there and someone phones up, goes, oh, my name's blah, blah, I'm psychic. You can see everybody in the office go, oh, my God. But we have to follow it through. But it's very much tongue-in-cheek. Thank you very much for your help.
It's no different, I suppose, in some ways. And again, people listening might disagree. And if you want to join the conversation, folks, 0344 499 1000. But it's no different, really, to talking about a hunch. We've all had hunches in our life.
Absolutely. Who's to say that isn't psychic instinct? We're all spirit people within. We've all got a psychic ability. And these people say, wow, if it wasn't for that hunch, then this wouldn't have happened. Yeah. And so, I have to question that with people and say, well, what is a hunch then? Define hunch to me. Because for me, this is as natural as breathing, Paul, and at the end of the day, I know sceptics are going to most probably put on Twitter and God knows what, oh, this is all a load of rubbish. That's fair play. Let them do that. But I like to evidence everything I do. And so everything I do is evidenced. And that's important.
Let me ask you, I hope we can talk again in a few weeks' time. We'll make sure we have
Oh, God, yeah.
If that's okay. But let me ask you, how can people find out more about what you do? And you mentioned you're on Twitter. How can people contact you or just find out more about what you're up to?
Yeah, of course. My website is Nicky Alan. It's actually, I work in memory of my dad, ALAN. Lots of people think it's spelled differently. .co.uk. I'm Nicky Alan on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm all over the place on that. And obviously I have columns in Spirit and Destiny and Fate and Fortune, as well as and in Australia as well as do Haunted magazine. So I've been doing a lot of writing. I had a road accident a few years ago that it was quite a serious road accident, so I haven't been able to go out touring as much as I used to. And obviously the television stuff has stopped for the time being because of this injury that I got that's pretty much mucked up everything. But it's the best thing ever happened in my life. But again, that's another show in itself, because that's a good story. We will talk again, Nicky, because you're a great guest, okay? And I advise people to keep an open mind on this one. Great fun as well. That's Nicky Alan, ALAN. The Haunted magazine article out this month is called The Abbot of Netley Abbey. And what a great guest Nicky was. Nicky, stay safe. How is your health? Are you on the mend? I mean, any prospect of you getting your health back completely? I'm left with a chronic illness, which is incurable. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because I'm writing now and I'm talking to people like you, so it's all good.
Nikki, you've been
I don't have to drag myself around hotels anymore doing theatre shows for the time being.
We'll talk again soon, Nikki. Thank you very much indeed. How would you describe yourself? Is psychic medium about right and paranormal writer?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yep, psychic medium, paranormal writer, fab.
Thank you very much indeed, Nicky Alan. We'll see you, Nikki, on the other side on Talk Radio, the talk of the nation.
Talk Radio. Intelligent, organic entertainment.
Talk Radio.
We'll get you talking.